Good evening, everyone. Deputy Mayor Frank Danch, I get the joy of hosting the meeting tonight. Without any further ado, I'll get Joel to lead us in O Canada, please.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Car ton bras c'est porter le pays, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Well done as always, Joel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So, Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any addendum items tonight?
There's one addendum item this evening, a delegation added to item number 10. Mr. Halinga will be discussing the comprehensive zoning bylaw.
Thank you so much. So I guess now we'll confirm the agenda. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Doucette. They do all in favor?
All those in favor, yeah.
All those in favor? There we go, unanimous. Are there any disclosures of interest? I guess with that being said, we'll move along to the adoptions of the minutes for the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole held on February 12th. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Butters, all in favor? I'm moving right along here, folks.
Yeah.
Determination of items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Butters.
Thank you. I would like number 7 and 10 lifted.
Councillor Demers.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd like item 3, please.
Mr. Main.
2, please.
On my left, anyone? Thank you so much. So I guess we'll have the approval of the items not requiring separate discussion. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Bodner, all in favor? Once again, unanimous. Thank you so much. I guess we'll move on to presentations. We've got a check for our fire department. It'll be coming from Will Murray, who's our convener for the, what do you say, our tournament convener. We've got Lee Vanderland here from Pinty's Delicious Foods. I think Mr. Zarb's out there from the Reeb House, and Joe Suvik. And I guess if we'll all meet over at the podium, the chief can receive a check. You want me to go on this?
Yeah, sure.
The Zuvik Memorial Snow Pitch Tournament this year held in honor of the Zuvik family that tragically lost their lives in the house fire back on December 14th of 2016. The tournament was a great success. We raised $3,003.50, which we would like to pass on to the Port Colborne Fire and Emergency Services that put to good use to prevent another tragedy like that from ever happening again.
Thank you very much.
It wouldn't be possible without the support of Pinty's, with their financial support.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, John Zarb was not able to be here tonight.
Thanks much.
Without his support, the tournament wouldn't have been a great success either. So, thank you.
Well, don't run away.
Thank you very much on behalf of the firefighters and council and the taxpayers of the city. We appreciate this. It certainly will go towards our 2018 efforts for fire safety in our community. Every cent we collect goes back into the community from a fire safety perspective. We appreciate your efforts and thank you again so much.
It's always great when the community groups get together and support our fire services. They do a great job for us. They're 24/7, 365, and I don't think we will forget that. So thank you so much, people.
All right, a little closer, fire. Excuse me. Hang on to the mic. Everybody needs to be in the middle. There you go. Excuse me. All right. 3, 2, 1. And one more. Thank you. You can take that up.
Okay, so we've got that out of the way. We've got a delegation here. Mr. Halinda, if you would come up to the podium, I think you know the way. I believe you need to push that little red button, and you have 10 minutes, my friend.
Thank you. This won't take 10 minutes. Mr. Deputy Mayor, councilors, staff, press, and other attendees, thank you for allowing me to speak on the topic of the Port Colborne Draft Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw Update 2018. The last comprehensive zoning bylaw was passed some 20+ years ago. This document is the compass for the direction of the city, potentially for the next 20 years or more. Examples of changes made in this document include agricultural and rural zones have had AR and RR designations added around residences and commented on by the region. Residential development have had R1 designations added around residences, despite the RD zones allowing residences. Extractive industrial has been changed to mineral aggregate operation with a new definition, potentially new permitted uses that have not been clearly defined. The average person needs to seek expert opinions on changes that affect them, and there has been little time. It's even taxing for you as councillors to notify each of your ward constituents where there are changes that affect them. I have asked the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for an interpretation of the meaning of mineral aggregate operation, the details of the permitted uses intended to be included, and have not even had a confirmation my questions have been received to date. I respectfully suggest the comprehensive zoning bylaw update should be advertised and receive public input in a public forum. This is not an Olympic hockey game that is too important to decide in a shootout. It should be discussed with two-way dialogue. Final approval, despite a public meeting, will not be unanimous, but it will be more defensible. If after a second public meeting, then it can be defended and is not simply a decision of the councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the presenter? Councillor Bodner.
Hi, Jack. Thanks for showing up tonight. Maybe not a question to Jack, but maybe to Dan. Just so we don't have the public thinking we didn't have any consultation on this or anything, can you give us, did we advertise, how did we come to the point we're at?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Bodner, Council will recall we had a public open house. That was the first public engagement we had that actually had our potential plans proposed. Then Council had the statutory public meeting on June the 12th. That was advertised. People showed up. Some people didn't, but what I have done since that public meeting was engage members of the public that have expressed comments that I have addressed, and they would be included and have been included in my recommendation report. And my plan is to bring forward a final recommendation report for council's consideration on March 26th. And I said to everyone publicly that any comments that come in after the public meeting, I will address and I will include on any report that comes to council for consideration.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilor Butler.
So Jack's suggesting we maybe should have another public meeting that, you know, that'll give people that didn't put requests in a chance. What would that involve?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Bodder, because the Planning Act does not contemplate a second public meeting, it would have to be a direction of council to do that. We are only required to have one public meeting, which took place June 12, 2017.
Okay, so, but just a time frame, you know, if we decided to do it.
If the direction from council is given, we have to advertise in the papers. Again, there's a 20-day notification if it's a formal public meeting under the Planning Act. As I mentioned, there's no requirements for a second public meeting, so there will have to be direction from council with what notification requirements council is seeking to have. So there's the cost to advertise, and we would place the notice again on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Move to reconsider. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acting Mayor. Through you to Dan. Dan, the changes that Jack is talking about is something we have never talked about. And I mean, Jack, for sure, we know Jack very well because he's concerned about the quarry behind him. So, and this affects him, as well as Mr. Wells, as well as a few other people in the area. Are those changes so extensive that we would need a second meeting, according to you?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Doucette, having read the correspondence that has been received this evening and some emails from Mr. Halinga, the only change that would be proposed in the new zoning bylaw that was not proposed at June 12th, 2017 would be the definition. We've included the definition of mineral aggregate operation, which was not there in June 12th. So second to that was because of the comments from the Niagara region regarding cement, regarding accessory uses and the need to actually have a definition that was then included after the June 12th, 2017 public meeting.
Councilor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I really think that it is more than just a few people that are affected other than Mr. Halinga or Mr. Wells by the quarry. I think you will recall a year ago, November, when this chamber was packed on another issue, another change in zoning for the quarry. This place was packed. So I think it's really important for us to proceed with care and caution and to make sure that everybody has that opportunity to understand what these changes really mean. Like what the definition, a new definition means. Be able to ask questions about, does it have to be in there that way? Why is it being changed from, you know, what it was before to new wording? And what that really entails for the quarry and for the people who live around it. We are concerned out there for the vulnerable aquifer, for example. Did any of these changes have the ability to maybe have a negative impact on that? Like, I don't know what the answer to that is. So for myself, and speaking for people out in Ward 4, I would tend to want to err on the side of one more public meeting, making sure that we proceed with care and caution on this to get it right. It's been 20 years, 21 years, whatever. These changes may not seem like much to And maybe they aren't much, I don't know, but we better be darn sure what they actually mean in the real world. Thank you.
Back to Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I agree with Councillor Butters. I'd be happy to second the motion if she wanted to make it for that public meeting. And while we don't have to have it, and there is a cost to it, you know, this thing is going to be carved in stone for a long time. I think people need to be, you know, at least have a kick at the can, or at least make sure they understand it, or at least be able to express their opinion on it, even if we decide, you know, that it has to be this way. So I think that's a reasonable request if Councillor Butters wants to make it.
Councillor Demers.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Excuse me. This is through you to Dan. Dan, I'm looking at the email that Jack did send us where you had replied in blue to his many comments. And one in particular resonated with me. It was about the index in the report, because there was quite a job to read that report and to be able to work back and forth from it. So would you be adding that index and supplying that report?
Through your Deputy Mayor to Councillor Demeray, it has already been done. As I mentioned, it was omitted by accident. It is completed, and it's been reviewed. It's now A-OK. It's now included in the draft. So that would be presented if there is a public meeting, actually what the index would be. And it would also mention other changes that have taken place since June 12th, 2017 to whenever the public meeting is scheduled.
Brad, that's good. Thank you so much.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Dan. I got a feeling that maybe we're going to move forward with a second public meeting, just listen to the council, and that's fine. Should we go ahead with a second public meeting and there's changes that result from that meeting, we're going to push the ratification of this off again, and I'm fine with that. But I do have somebody that keeps asking me when we're going to adopt this, because some of the changes impact their property in a positive way and they want to move forward with it. And this gentleman has been waiting a long time for this to happen. So I'd like to kind of give him some kind of timeline that he can expect this to be adopted and ratified, because he's been waiting years for his property, the zoning, to change on it so he can move forward with some things that he wants to do. So give me kind of a breakdown on notification, public meeting, to set a date, to see if there's going to be changes. If there's any changes, they have to come back to council to be ratified again. Then we've got to put it in the new plan. So if there's changes to be made, give me a timeline with changes and without changes, if you can, on a ballpark, just so I can relay it to them.
Through your Deputy Mayor to Councillor Elliott, I as well have people that are chomping at the bit, and I've had to tell them, you got to wait. That's unfortunate, but that's the reality. If the direction is given this evening, then we have notification requirements that the newspapers require. So my hope, again, I would need to find out from council what actually notification requirements would they be seeking. Would it be the same traditionally if there was a public meeting under the Planning Act? Because that is a 20-day notification period. So if the ad was in the paper, it wouldn't happen this week because of their requirements for time. So that would be next week, so 20 days, and then coinciding with council's agendas, or when council meets. We're going to be into the month of April. So it would be the first meeting in April. And then depending upon what comments are received at the public meeting, because then I would have to address the comments. Depending on the nature of those comments, it's difficult for me to say, yep, by this date, you will have the recommendation report, because I do not know what comments may be forthcoming. So I would endeavor to get something back to council quick, but I would want to be sure that the comments are adequately addressed. And if changes are needed, it's then brought forward for council's consideration.
Okay. Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. And I'm not, Jack, I'm not trying to take out any comments that you have made, but like I said, I've got somebody that's really looking forward to the changes that they're going through, so I just need to know kind of a timeline. We're looking at, I'll say on the outset, maybe May by the time we adopt it, if anything has to go through. So, and of course, you know what, public opinion, yeah, and I can understand your request to have the second meeting, so I would support that for sure.
Okay, so I guess once more, Councilor Butters.
Yes, I would like to move then that we go forward with a public meeting in regards to the draft comprehensive zoning bylaw, and that we put that into motion as soon as we can.
Go ahead, Mr. Bodnar.
I'll second that, but Dan, we don't need to be 20 days, right? We are under no obligation to be 20 days out.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Bonner, that is correct, because the Planning Act only requires one public meeting. So if the direction from council is to follow what normally is the Planning Act requires, then that would be the 20-day notification period. So it would be the direction of council if they want to follow the Planning Act or do something different.
2 weeks
Councilor.
instead of 20 days?
CEO Louis.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Council, I can probably talk to the newspaper and see if we can get something in the end of this week or the first 2 days of next week, and use social media and other platforms to get our message out, and have the meeting on the 26th, public meeting at Council on March 26th, which will at least move us forward 3 weeks from the first council meeting in April.
All right, so vote for reconsideration.
Yeah, do reconsideration first.
Okay, so then I guess we'll have a vote for reconsideration. All those in favor?
We need a mover and a second.
Oh, sorry, need a mover and seconder. Okay, so Ron and Bart for mover and seconder, and then the vote, the motion.
Yeah, and then the main motion. And then the main motion.
And on a May motion. Guess we're going back to another meeting then, eh?
Another meeting March 26th.
We'll see on March the 26th, if not before, Mr. Linda, we'll let you know. Well, since I'm the mayor and I don't really have a report, I just wanted to commend or congratulate all our Olympic athletes on the wonderful job in keeping Canada on the map. 29 medals, still a great country. Love where I live and been here my whole life like the rest is, so congrats to them, and I guess we'll wait for another 4 years and maybe we can win some hockey games or something like that. Mr. Regional Councillor, not here today. He's apparently trying to get us some more bucks in Toronto. We'll see how that goes. So moving forward, we'll get into the councillors' items. And I guess we'll start with Mr. Main, item number 2. Oh, councillor inquiries, I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Main.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This is just talking about the Eagle Marsh drain. I've got a lot of people calling me this week about it, and I understand the timeline. But a chap called me up today saying how he used to fish in the Schofield ditch years ago, and I think we all did when we were kids, and how the fishery has deteriorated there since we had the dike in the front. So looking at the report today from Stephen, about 2 years plus to get it all cleaned out. Could that be changed in any way, shape, or form to get at it and get at it quick, or is it just too much work involved to get permission slips from everybody that's involved?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Main. There is a lot of work that goes into those reports, and they do take a long time. I know of a couple of reports that have taken close to 20 years to be completed. With this one, we are going to try to expedite it as fast as we can, and I can try to narrow down our actual timelines by the end of this week and give you more of an update.
Thank you, Stephen. It's much appreciated.
Is that it, Councilor May?
That's fine, thanks.
Taking it easy on us. Councilor Kenny?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Stephen again. Stephen, thank you for all your help this past week. I've been bombarding him with complaints from my taxpayers in Ward 3, and you've answered all of them, so thank you very much for that. But this is, again, another question. I've asked it several times. When are we ever going to get Kalali Street, where that bridge is, that area fixed, instead of a sign saying bump, bump, bump? One of my people who complain all the time thought for sure we'd get that fixed when the work yard went over there, so because the truck's crossing over it all the time. And I know we're supposed to have discussions with Trillium and the region, but how long do these discussions take? I'm getting a little weary of saying, oh, it's going to be done soon, it's going to be done soon. So if you have any idea from the region or from Trillium when we're going to get that fixed, that would be great. Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Kenny. Right now, I'm pretty much on the same page as where you were, where there were discussions with the region and Trillium, and there would have to be an agreement with the region of when we're going to be completing it. I haven't heard anything recently, but I can inquire to find out if they are planning to do it this year, and hopefully that is the case.
Stephen, please tell them it has to be.
Oh, okay.
No, will you?
Okay.
I know you can do it. Okay.
I'll push them for it.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Councilor Demers, did you have some?
I do, thank you. Through you to Stephen again. Looks like it's going to be your night. And it looks like we're going to talk about bridges again. My issue is around the potholes on the bridge. There's been a lot of activity on social media around this as well. Now, I had called Chris several weeks ago and let him know that the potholes were becoming large, very large, especially at the Kalali Street end, that it's terrible there. And he said he was going to reach out to the Seaway at that point and see, you know, where the potholes were and who was responsible for what. My understanding is that they are city responsibilities, but maybe you could enlighten us on that. And it's now more than one bridge. Clarence Street Bridge is pretty bad too.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Desmarais. We have, I believe it is the Seaway's responsibility to fill those potholes that are directly beside the bridge on either side. Public Works has contacted them, and they were waiting for them to come in and actually fill those holes up. I'm not sure exactly of the timeline of when they'll be doing that, but we can press them for that as well.
Okay, could you possibly reach out to them tomorrow or the next day and get a timeline and email me? Because definitely. I have people calling more than once a day, same person more than once a day about these potholes. And I do understand it, having hit one, I do get it. Totally understand it. They are frustrating, and you have to swerve around them, and someone almost got hit on a bike because of swerving around them, and a car coming at the same time. It was just a real mess. So it would be good to have that answer. And barring them doing it quickly, maybe the city should be doing it and billing the region. I think it's about time we started doing that sort of thing, because we have to wait too long for everything. Thank you.
Good on my right. Councilor Doucette.
Okay, I'll leave it alone. I've got a question.
Not yet. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you, we'll pick on Stephen tonight. Steve, I know you may not know now, it's still only February. Line painting on the road. Do you know when we're going to get back at it again? And the reason I ask is on the way here, the corner Elm and Charlotte, right in front of the post office, the stop line is gone and the center line is gone. And I didn't notice it until somebody was coming at me, and it's like, you're on my side of the road, and then it's like, there's no line. And then the stop line at the stop sign is completely removed. So that's an issue. I know usually we get in this, we're going twice a year now, aren't we? Spring and fall maybe, so do you know when we're going to get back at it?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Elliott. We are doing it twice a year now, so we will have it. More than likely, it'll be the end of March, early June, and then we'll do it again in the fall. But for the stop bars, we can have those painted a little sooner. As soon as we get the sand cleaned up off the road, we can actually put those bars on there ourselves.
That was one of my biggest issues, is because if you don't really notice the stop sign, there is no line that you're going to see, so it kind of reinforces that. Okay, thanks. And then one other quick question to To Peter, there was an article in the Tribune the other day. You probably saw it with the collaboration between Thorold and Welland getting together to look for efficiencies in purchasing. Is that something that is raised at, I know that the local treasurers get together from time to time. Is that something that's been brought up in your meetings to try to create partnerships in purchasing agreements or power? I think I've talked about that before, why we don't get together with all municipalities when we're going to purchase vehicles and things like that, that maybe we can save some money if we all go in at once and put together a big order and maybe find some cost savings. Can you talk about that if that's possible?
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Elliott. It's not something really that has been brought up at the Treasurers' meetings and discussed. It is something I can bring up at our next meeting. I do know, though, that we are part of the procurement process with the region, and we partake in that for a number of different things, both supplies and for public works, office supplies, that types of things. So we are part of that group. So we do get some benefits there, and I know that we do purchase through that grouping policy. So that part of it is in place, but we haven't had any dealings with other municipalities in determining, if there's other things that we can do. But it is something I'll raise at for the next Treasurers meeting, and we can get some conversation going on it.
I can speak a little bit too.
Yep.
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Elliott, we are part of the Niagara, I think what Mr. Sinnes is referring to, the Niagara Public Purchasing Commission or Committee, and it's all municipalities, the region, school boards, both big school boards, Brock and Niagara College, and we get prices that come through for tons and tons of products. Batteries for flashlights for people, and we don't participate in everything, but there are a number of things. I think the Parks Commission is involved too, so you can imagine the quantity and types and range of products we're buying. But we do sometimes go out on our own, and we find that we get very favorable pricing on some things that we buy in operations compared even to the bulk purchasing there. And you'll recall a few staff reports towards the last quarter of last year where we extended the contracts that we had with existing suppliers for asphalt and for different things, because we were able to secure an extra 2 years if they locked in their prices, and we find that we're doing okay in some of those things. But I can also talk to the CAOs while we have other staff talking to their colleagues in Niagara and just see if there's opportunities, because I was a little bit surprised myself to see that 2 municipalities signed up with each other and nobody phoned us. So I'll talk to some of my colleagues as well.
Always interesting to see what someone.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it for our councillor issues? So staff responses to previous councillor inquiries. Anything out there? I guess we're talking and emailing and getting things done off of the site. So consideration of items requiring separate discussion. We'll start with Mr. Main again. Item number 2.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Community and Economic Development, Sugarloaf Marina Division, report number 2018-29, subject Sugarloaf Marina Dredging Project.
I guess we've got Mr. Meyer heading up to the podium to give us his overview of what's going to be new and better at our marina this year. Need a seconder for that, please? Okay. Is that correct? Yeah, so we got B.
Okay. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no trouble at all putting $100,000 in the budget for doing this dredging. My issue is, how long is this going to last? We've been talking about dredging now for the 4 years that I've been here, and I know it was 4 or 5 years before. Is there any end to this? We keep putting the money in, and I understand that, and I know we have to do that because it's a great expense, but when is this going to come to fruition?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Main. I believe 2016 is when we issued the first RFQ It was quite the process, and it's, I'll let you know, it's been a learning process for myself, and I think of quite a few other people. It's a major undertaking that takes a long time, and through this all, we've learned a lot, and which is why we've had to keep on pushing it year after year. So that is why this report came out. Hopefully we can get a professional in to kind of spearhead this and point us in the right direction, and actually get to the bottom of it to say, this is how much it's going to cost, this is how long it's going to take, 5-year, 10-year plan. Because I think leaving it up to myself and my staff, it's just going to keep pushing it further. It's a lot of time. There's a lot of the ministries and all that you have to deal with. So I think going with this professional company, that's the best route.
Just another thought. If the dredging can't take place, which means the weeds keep growing, is there any way that we can eliminate the weeds and not have to worry about the dredging in such a manner that's going to cost us that much money? I know other marinas, and I've been to a lot of them, they use other ways of getting rid of the weeds. Have we thought of that?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, yes, we have discussed that at the time. We did get a quote for if the other options are chemicals. We have looked into that in the past, and at the time the numbers were pretty astronomical. So we decided, let's put this money into dredging, because then we're kind of killing two birds with one stone. Because the dredging was going to get rid of the silt, it's also going to get rid of the weeds. Since then, we've been in other discussions with other municipalities and marinas, and they do use some types of chemicals they find that have been really working. So we are actually going to start looking down that road, which hopefully, if we get approved and it's not too expensive, then that could eliminate the weeds. But we're still going to have that silt issue over in the western corner there.
Thanks, Mark, but when the dredging starts, we're going to make all kinds of money because of all the car keys, cell phones, outboard motors, and everything else that's in the bottom of that marina might help offset what it's going to cost us to dredge it. So just keep that in mind.
There's a lot of tools down there.
I know it's got my gas cap off my boat from a few years ago. Any other questions for Mr. Miner? All in favor? Okay. Well, Mark, you're out of here.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to item number 3. Councillor Demers, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Corporate Services Finance Division, report number 2018-28. Subject: Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, OCIF, Intake 2, Nickel Area CSO Control Program Amending Agreement.
Okay, I need a seconder for that. Councillor Elliott. Go ahead, Councillor Demers.
Okay. Thank you again, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This would be through you to Steve. Steve, in the report, it says that this is actually, the report is about an extension to the original agreement so that funding can stay in place, correct? Yes. Okay. So in the report, there is a substantial completion date of June 1st with a follow-up final report coming in by July 3rd. That's what we're looking at. Now, when you say substantial completion, all right, that doesn't mean absolutely complete. And we've been waiting a while in the area to get things done, and I understand all the delays that have happened. But I want to understand a little bit about what substantial completion is. Are we actually talking about the sod and the mounds of earth that were left in the front, on people's front lawns? Will they be replaced? Will that be done? Is that part of substantial completion, not just sidewalks and roads?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Desmarais. typically substantial completion is about 85%. In this case, with the June 1st, we're aiming for 100% completion. Everything should be done. All of the sod should be done, concrete and asphalt, and it should be very well. We're still going to look at resurfacing a lot of the roadways, some trenches and stuff later on in the year, but for the time being, everything will be backfilled and hopefully back to normal.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay, good with that. All right then, so I guess we'll move on to item number 7. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, you need
All right, all in favor? There you go. I'm gonna get the hang of this, don't worry, folks. Okay, I think I said this. Councillor Butters, item 7.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Number 7, Planning and Development Planning Division Report number 2018-23, subject amendment to the Westwood Estates Phase 2 subdivision agreement.
Get a seconder? Mr. Bodner? Go ahead.
Thank you. So through you to Mr. Aquilina, I just was wondering, there was a series of emails kind of scooting around about this one, and I just wondered if you could comment on this particular amendment a little bit. And it seemed to me there was like some concern about the depth of basements. Is that correct?
Mr. Aquilina?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Butters, that is correct in the email that I got. What this amendment is regarding is a consent that was granted to create 2 lots. It was a boundary adjustment. In essence, 2 lots were created. Because those lots were created, it's not going to follow the overall master grading plan. So this report this evening is requiring a new master grading plan that includes the 2 lots. And in the subdividers agreement, there is a language in there that protects where basements can be located. There is a grading plan. And the comment from engineering was that, and it was a comment that was made through the process to develop the subdivision, is don't go in the bedrock. It was made more than once, and it's actually contained in the agreement that if you're going to build on top of the rock, because there's elevation plans, basement elevation plans that are in the agreement as well. So that will preclude someone to go down into the basement, because we are aware of the water problems that happen, and that has happened in the past when people put their foundations, their basements, down below the water level. It's just continually pumping of water from the sump pump.
And if I could just follow up, and so to make sure that is followed and enforced, and that would be up to our chief building official on his inspections to make sure that plan is followed properly.
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Butters, that is correct. The master grading plan, an individual grading plan, needs to be submitted and conform with the overall master grading plan. And if that is not done, because the grading plan is also reviewed by staff, not just the chief building official, we need clearance that the grading plan is submitted satisfactorily. So there's checks and balances.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay then for that? All in favor? Looking good. Okay, item 10, Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This is regarding Region of Niagara, regarding Town of Cullen resident and ratepayer petition.
Get a seconder. Councillor Doucette. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just a quick comment. I'm really not happy about this one at all. Thank you. That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Short and sweet.
I'm happy.
Anyone else? Councillor Doucette.
Go ahead. I'm going to make it simple as well. This is a play on semantics. It does exactly what it is we said we didn't want them to do in the first place. And it's just a play on words. That's all it is. And I think everyone has to realize that all they did was they jigged a couple of words and slightly changed it and sent it, but they winded up doing exactly what it is we had suggested and we had told them. It wasn't their business. So I'll just leave it at that as well. But I think we have to start looking at the fine wording and how they're playing around with words to try to make it look like they're serving us when sometimes they're not. And that's as simple as that. And we had a perfect example of that in the past.
Councillor Deers.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Again, I'm also not happy with it, but I want to just make sure that we underline the fact that we're only receiving this for information purposes. There's nothing about supporting it. We're receiving it for information purposes only. Yeah. Which means you can file it under G.
Yes. I think we'll do that later. Councillor Kenny?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, through you to the CAO. Do we have to file and receive? Can we not say dispose of or return? I don't think we should even receive it because we unanimously voted against it. And now, just like you're saying, they're sending us another email about something else they want. No, we are against it 100%. And I think that we need to send that message back to them very clearly.
I think through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Kenny, you are correct that to receive for information is to take no action. There's no action taken at all, as opposed to support. It means we're taking the action of supporting a neighboring municipality when they have some kind of a motion. I guess if council, it's not very common, we have done it in the past though, if council wanted to take an action in a negative way, we did this in November with a similar piece of correspondence where there was an amendment made by a council member, and the idea was to not receive it or to not support it and send a reply back to the regional clerk from our clerk's office that said that council took that course of action at the meeting.
Let's do that. I would like to make the motion that we do that. Then, however that has to be worded, we all feel very strongly about it. And so however we have to do that to make sure that they get the message, I think we should do that.
Okay,
so whatever direction that is needed, I will send that message forward. Thank you.
Can Mr. Louie help me with this one, or?
Well, I think we'll get carried to work on the motion. Like, I think you got a handle on that? Sorry. Just amending it?
I'd like to suggest that you do a similar motion to what you did in November, is that you do not support and that you strongly oppose. I think that is what Councillor Kenny was saying.
Then we just need a seconder for that, then we'll do it tomorrow.
So Councillor Butters will second that. Do we need to get the motion on the floor?
No, that's it. It's on the floor, so now you just need a vote. Any more discussion?
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor? There you go. Okay. So I guess we go with regular council, eh?
You got to do an adjournment on the committee, I think. We got over here. Yeah, any notice of motion?
Where's that? I want to see that. So any notices of motion? Oh, I get you.
And then you just adjourn this.
And then I guess we'll move for adjournment. Mr. Bodner and Mrs. Kenny. That was kind of my job, wasn't it? It's okay. I'll be back to vote. Don't you worry. We ain't over yet. I guess we'll proceed to the regular committee there, Mr. Louie? Correct? Okay. So the regular committee of the whole meeting of...
Call to order the council meeting, yeah.
Yeah, regular committee of the council. February 12th. Oh, sorry, wrong one.
26.
Yeah, February 26, 2018. Are there any addendum items, Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Mayor.
And confirmation of the agenda. Ms. Butters and Mr. Doucette. Any disclosures of interest?
All in favor of that?
Well, all in favor? Why wouldn't you be? There you go. Any disclosures of interest? Nothing there. So the adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of March the 8th. No, what the heck is this? February 12th, 2018. All in favor?
Well, this is the third meeting of the year.
Yeah. So I guess we got separate discussion.
It's confusing because it's March.
So determination of items requiring separate discussion. So we kind of did that. All in favor? Once again. Approval of items not requiring separate discussion. All in favor?
I'm going to move in a seconder.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Doucette. So what do we have now?
Now all in favor.
All in favor?
Good.
You guys are the best.
No proclamations.
So we've got no proclamations. We've got the minutes of boards and committees. I'll read them in block because I guess that's what we normally do. Minutes of the Port Colborne Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting of September 25th, 2017. Meetings of the Port Colborne Public Library Board meeting of January the 8th, 2018. And meetings of the Social Determinant of the Health Advisory Committee, Everyone Matters, meeting of November the 1st, 2017. All in favor?
Mover and seconder.
Mover and seconder, sorry. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Elliott, all in favor? Okay. Consideration of the bylaws. I believe that's yours. Miss Deputy Clerk.
Thank you. Bylaw 65530818, a bylaw to appoint a city clerk, Amber LaPointe. Bylaw 65540918, a bylaw to adopt a deputy clerk, a commissioner for taking affidavits. Bylaw 6551018, being a bylaw establishing an emergency management program for the protection of public safety, health, the environment, critical infrastructure and property, and to promote economic stability and a disaster-resilient community, and repealing bylaws 3560141197 and 45245504. Bylaw 65561118, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an amending agreement for the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund with Her Majesty the Queen as represented by Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. And bylaw 65551218, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular meeting of February 26, 2018.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder? Councillor Demers, Councillor Butters.
And now all in favor.
Sorry?
All in favor.
All in favor? There you go.
All right. Those against?
With me? Not with me at the helm. Okay.
Remember?
Yeah. Payback. Not a problem.
I have a motion to go in closed session. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, please do. Councillor Louis?
You need a mover and a seconder after I'm done. The council now go into closed session to address the following matters. Minutes of the closed session portions of the following council meetings, January 22nd, 2018. Corporate Services Department Clerks Division Report number 201831, subject appointments to boards and committees pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239-2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and Planning and Development Department Planning Division Report number 2018-19, concerning an appeal under the Planning Act to the Ontario Municipal Board related to 709 Lakeshore Road East, pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239-2E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board.
Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Kenny, Councillor Demers. All in favor? I guess we'll adjourn this part.